well after a couple of weeks off. Back with us here at this time on Tuesdays from the Internal Revenue Service, Luis Garcia. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Hope you had a restful couple of weeks there.
Well, not really, but it was.
I had a feeling
but
you'd say that.
At least it's not as nutty.
Well,
at least all my friends aren't as stressed out.
That's right. And maybe there are some people stressed out there because they missed the deadline. What would you tell them?
Well, the thing is, if you miss the deadline and you're like most people, you are owed money. So I'm not supposed to say this, but you're not in trouble. If we owe you money and you're like 83% of most people in Michigan, you've got a refund coming, there's no issue. The trouble is you're denying yourself your check. What are you doing? Come on, get going. But if you're in that 17% where you owe, in that case, the clock has started to tick on interest and penalties. So the most important thing to do is get it together and file. Remember that even if you filed an extension, or even if you do file an extension, it's an extension to file, not an extension to pay. So you want to get going on that payment as soon as possible. And if it's a big amount, we've had, especially in bigger cities in Michigan, we've had issues where, people are used to making a certain income. They've either lost their job or their hours have been cut dramatically. They're used to getting a certain amount. So, unfortunately, they tap into their 401k or into their retirement plan. That causes them to get a big penalty right up front and pay a big chunk in taxes. And then they get a big tax bill, and they're not expecting it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we keep seeing this. So if you're one of those folks that there's no way you can pay that off, just go to IRS.gov. We have an installment agreement. You do an online payment tool, and you tell us, look, I want to pay this off in a year. I want to pay this off in 2 years. I know I'm going to incur interest, which is actually very minimal. It's not like you're, being charged rates that others would charge you.
Right.
But you can say, I'm going to pay this off in a certain amount. And if you set it up for automatic debit, and that really helps people, that certainly helps me when I know, my utility bill is going to be a certain amount, the same amount every month.
Right.
I can budget for it.
Sure.
And this way, you're in control. You control. I know it wasn't a setup by your programming director to have a tax commercial before I come on, but just in case, take control of your financial future. I do like that tagline, and make that you can do the installment agreement yourself, and you can have the amount that you pay us set every month, same exact amount. As long as it's an automatic debit, you get even less of an interest rate, a lower interest rate, and you control it.
Yeah,
that's the main thing. Don't ignore it.
It's certainly within the realm of acceptability to say that those are third parties that are looking to make a buck out of this.
Sure.
Yeah.
And you know what? And a lot of them do a really great job. A lot of them, the biggest thing that I just, anecdotally, the biggest service that they provide is just peace of mind. People are like, they've got the bases covered.
Done, yeah.
But nothing that they do is something that you can't do yourself. If you go to IRS.gov and you look at the payment plans, if you look at the different sorts of payment agreements or offers in compromise where we actually lower the amount that you're supposed to pay because we know you're never going to be able to pay that full amount, you can do that entirely on your own. You don't have to hire anybody to do that. In some cases, those companies, they require that you have a minimum amount that you owe. So, and of course, they charge you.
Yeah. So
you can do it yourself if you want to read through the things, or if some people just feel better doing it themselves. But it's not. None of this requires a rocket scientist. None of this requires CPAs and enrolled agents and people who do taxes. They all do a great job. Most of them do a great job, I should say. There's some unscrupulous ones out there. You got to be careful.
Yeah.
But they provide a really valuable service. The number one thing they give is peace of mind because people are like, this is what they do day in and day out. They know it. But there's also people who are do-it-yourselfers that, they could do just as good a job if they're careful and read through things.
So make sure you go to irs.gov and get that information is the point that Luis is making, and make sure you're informed on that. And we appreciate the time, Luis, and we'll talk to you again on Tuesday next week with our tax tip.